This is a new one. This is mockernut hickory that I told you about.
Yeah.
I found a place in Pennsylvania that sells them. 2 of them have died, unfortunately, but this one's surviving. And my friends from down south say this is the best yellow color you can get in the East. I don't know if that's true, but they love it. This is the
pretty tree. What's
this
that?
is black Tupelo.
Okay,
the one
that's
downtown.
the one downtown again.
This one's 7 or 8 years. The beauty of black Tupelo for tree planting, besides the beauty and its tolerance, it's very slow growing. This has grown just a couple feet in 8 years.
Yeah.
So it'll be there, and it lives for 700 years or more.
Okay.
So hopefully, you know, in
canopy in the future there.
in 2730, it'll be here. I don't know. I like weedy, quote unquote weedy trees. So this is staghorn sumac. Turns a beautiful color in the fall, easy to grow. It spreads. There's one that just popped up in my blueberries that I got to pull out. So I have to weed it a little bit. It spreads through the roots, but it looks tropical, and its architecture is just gorgeous.
Right, we got in a muddle, my daughter and I, trying to distinguish walnut and sumac and the other thing that looks the same.
This is very hairy.
The tree of heaven. So
oh yeah.
Oh, I see. This is totally hairy.
It is very hairy. That's right.
Yes. Okay.
So, this is a tree that's this is a sassafras, so it's native to the south, but it grows up here naturally too. Turns yellow,
I've
red,
seen this in
orange.
the forests around here a lot.
This one died when we had the construction.
Yeah.
I dug it up, put it in another place. It resprouted, and then I dug it up and I put it back where it was, and it's doing okay. It's a tough tree. This is just the black walnuts here. This is red.
Nice path, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Pretty. Very pretty.
I thought of it. Yeah, thanks. It's easy to put in too. I don't know how long it lasts. It's not level, whatever.
Yeah.
This is red buckeye. It doesn't grow very tall. It has beautiful red flowers that hummingbirds like.
Yeah.
It's really a southern species. I've been in a valley where it was full of these. It's so gorgeous.
So you're planting some species which are a little south of our range, aren't you?
I am. Because
to give everything a chance, and so see what will so that everything has a better chance of adapting
in 20
to
and 30 years. That's right. And we know that a lot of southern species can grow farther north than they naturally do. There's a bald cypress in Montreal that's doing fine.
Yeah.
And so there's one tree that I've really pushed the limit on it, but and I could tell you more about. So this died during the construction, but now it's resprouting. It's going to be fine. This is Allegheny serviceberry.
Oh, I love the serviceberries.
Yeah.
They're stunning.
This one has a disease. It's holding on. It's producing some fruit. I don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But it's living now. This is pinkster. It's a type of azalea. It's a native azalea. Grows on mountaintops, in rocks.
Yeah.
Pink flowers, a light rose scent to it.
I planted some of the what do you call them?
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I haven't been particularly successful with those. But
yeah, they're hard. This one almost died back, but it's coming back now. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
This is something that was next to our chimney before we had the addition done. This is a mountain laurel.
Oh, I planted one of those which died on me too, but I think I put it in the wrong place.
Yeah,
I think they're beautiful.
Yeah, I cut it back hard.
It was huge.
Did a big root ball. I dragged it here and watered it heavily for 1 year.
Yeah.
And it resprouted. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
This is the Native American sycamore. Again, it's really susceptible to diseases, but this one's doing fine. It can grow to be a huge tree really quickly.
So, what is your thinking about planting this density then? You were saying you planted a huge density.
So this is what I'm doing that's not conventional. I'm planting at a high density. And so especially this example, let's take this example right here. This is mountain ash. It grows on tops of mountains.
Love them.
It's not a big tree, so I grew it here, won't get very big. Right next to it I put a Kentucky coffee tree. this will turn into a fairly big tree in 20, 30 years, and they can coexist. So I spend a lot of time in forests. I've seen trees grow right next to each other of different species.
Yep.
I've seen trees live 3 or 4 feet from each other, different species. And I want a forest.
Yep.
I don't want a park. I want a forest. And so I love bark. So I planted trees with specific bark, mostly in this row. I planted them close together so they grow up and not out. And so I can see the bark. But I think trees can handle this. I think they can learn to adapt to this. I have another row of trees back there, but let's not worry about that.
Yeah.
This is paper birch. It's a northern species. This is way south for it. I did it solely for the bark color. And I think it can survive. I don't recommend it, but I wanted one. Because I was in a restaurant in China, in the Tibetan Plateau, where they planted aspen close together, and you were eating at tables underneath this. The aspen were only about this big, but they were planted so densely there was a full canopy over you, and it was beautiful, and I wanted to try to create something like that here.
Right.
And I wanted to do it with birch because I like birch bark.
Yeah.
So I did the paper birch here.
Yeah,
it's struggling. I don't think it came from good stock, but I believe in trees, it'll recover. This is umbrella magnolia. This is the northern range limit for this species is southeastern Pennsylvania. It probably comes a little further north, maybe to Connecticut. It doesn't get to be a big tree. It's an understory tree, lives in the canopy. But there were some planted in Concord and in the Amherst area 120 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were struggling and struggling, but since the 70s and 80s, Jesse Bellmare, who studies them, says they're doing great now.
Okay.
And I think it's because it's warm enough now compared to the past.
Yeah.
And so this is a few years old. This one has been struggling to establish, but it flowered this year, and now it has fruits coming along.
Yeah.
And it's tropical, love the leaves. This is beach plum. So these two can coexist, I think, fairly well. This is, up north they call it black birch. I like to call it sweet birch, Betula lenta. Beautiful, dark, almost purple colored bark. I put it here because it's fast growing. So sometimes I put trees close together because if they're fast growing, I don't want them growing too fast, so I put them near each other to kind of slow their growth. Like I put the sumac underneath the big oak and next to the tupelo to think that the shade would slow its growth rate. It would grow, but it wouldn't grow as fast. So a potentially nuisance species might be, I don't like that term, but you know, some people think of it, but it would grow slower.
Right.
And so they'll live and you can contain them.
Even under oaks.
Yeah. Yeah. These trees are doing just fine.
Extraordinary.
Now, we're in a gap ecologically, right? Our yards are gaps in the forest, right?
Yes.
And so that's south.
Yeah.
So the north side of the gap, which is where we are, is the warmer side of the gap. And it gets more direct sunlight if we were in a forest. It's opposite of what we'd think. And so they're getting plenty of sunlight coming through that gap right there above the house.
Right.
So they're under the oak
I see what
partly,
you mean. Yeah.
But they're getting plenty of light from there.
Yeah.
They're not growing as fast as if they were in a yard.
Yeah.
But they're growing fast enough.
Yeah.
For us. This is sweet bush or sweet fern. I mean, I love sweet fern.
Yes, I do
and then,
too.
I really do love weedy species. I don't like that term, weedy species, but this is pin cherry.
Pin cherry?
Yeah.
Which sprouts randomly in my garden. I believe that's what
There's a lot of black cherry and there's probably pin cherry too. Yeah. I love the bark. When the sun is on it, it's a reddish bronze. It's really beautiful. It was this big when I planted it. It's growing fast. The architecture from the upper window is just the leaf arrangement. I love it. It won't live long. It won't get very big.
That's what they say, yeah.
But I think it's gorgeous. It's turning out better than I presumed.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty.
The sweet birch is sort of planted underneath it in a way because I put it in later. But this is not going to live 20 more years, maybe.
Right.
That can handle it, and when this falls down, this thing, the birch will shoot up and take its space.
I see.
So you try to underplant is the idea, and so you plant for the future. I planted a bunch of stuff back there, but I won't bore you with that. But this is a hairy, shiny sumac. It's a small tree. Let me get the right name for it, because I always forget what the name is. It turns, it might be, some people call it winged sumac. You can see these wings. It turns an incredible red in the fall.
Interesting wings.
Yeah.
Something.
And it really spreads, so it's starting to pop up back into the forest more.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. It usually gets it. This is the eye seek.
Yes, that's what I use.
Shining sumac.
Yeah, and
winged
that's
sumac.
spreading.
And it's spreading this way. It's spread across the path there.
Yeah.
The beech tree's gonna die. It's gonna do fine.
Why is the beech tree going to die?
The beech tree has beech bark disease and beech leaf disease, which is a new disease that's going to kill the beech.
Oh, God.
We're going to lose the beech in 10 years, essentially.
It's a fabulous beech tree.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I'm going to let it die, live for another year or so, and then cut it back. I planted a red maple underneath it because I wanted more color here in the fall, because the oaks don't turn the best color often.
Yeah.
And so it's just been growing underneath the beech tree for a few years, and when the beech tree dies, it'll fill that gap.
Well, will you take the beech down, or will you snag it? Or what
I'm going to snag it. I'm going to take the top off and leave about 12 feet, because I want to get pileated woodpeckers in this yard.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it for the woodpeckers.
Yeah.
And cut it so if it falls, it won't fall in our shed. Otherwise, wherever it falls, it won't fall here. If I cut it 12, 15 feet tall, it won't make it to our main living area.
Yeah. Do you ever pollard trees? Friends in England who pollard their decaying trees with some success sometimes.
Yeah, there's a tree here that I was thinking about doing that, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So here's another tulip poplar that I planted. It's grown about 10, 15 feet in a few years. It's incredible, its growth rate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cut the branches back. I've already cut them back a little bit to keep this path open. This is our wetland garden. We have like swamp azalea. Turtlehead is blooming right now. There's a bunch of little neat little ferns. We must have put ferns here. And I try to catch the water coming off the roof. And
oh, clever.
Yeah, because our soils are too dry. I tried to plant a lot of azaleas and they all died.
Yeah.
And it was too dry, so I've found an area where I can focus the water and turn it into a wetland.
Yeah.
This flame azalea survived, and I'm hoping it's because there's enough water flowing off our roof underground over this direction. It flowers like in July, early August. There's a lot of little plants back there. This is silver bell. You could see the fruit. It's a very southern species. It does fine up here now. It flowers early in the spring. They look like little white bells hanging down. We planted it. It survived for a couple years. It died back, and these are the resprouts.
Yeah.
So I just let them go.
Right.
Birds will sit on dead.
So that means if a tree dies, you don't take it away immediately.
I don't take it away. Because I saw it starting to resprout, and I watched it.
Yeah.
And people have said they might be less structurally sound, but I see trees in the forest all the time that are stump sprouts that are mature. So I love this tree. Now that it's resprouting, it's doing better than what it originally was.
Yeah.
I put it underneath the tulip poplar because it grows naturally in the inside the forest. So it's actually getting more sunlight than it would if it was in the forest, but it can handle this spacing.
Right.
In about 100 years, the bark is going to be amazing. I don't think I'm going to see it, but it's got gorgeous bark. There's hophorn bean. Astraea is back there in the corner. It's a small tree. We want to plant some on the street. It should do well on the street. It's hard to get. It has really stringy bark, multicolored bark. When it gets older, it can turn a nice color. That's a pawpaw. which is a fruit tree, a native
Yeah.
fruit tree to Ohio. You need 2 or 3 in your yard to get the fruits. I got it from Garden in the Woods. They gave it away for Arbor Day 6-7 years ago. It's growing phenomenally.
Look at it.
Its fall color is a limey yellow, neon green. It's gorgeous in the fall. It's a yellow, limey, neon foliage. It's really beautiful in the fall. I had no
Fantastic.
idea. And I put a second one in there.
So you're going for the fruit?
I'm going for the fruit.
Yeah.
I want to see what the fruit will do. I put in a spice bush over here.
Oh, yes.
Because I want to see if we can get the caterpillars, and I have a second spice bush up there. But again, another small bush.
Yeah.
Does fine in the shade. It's growing really well.
They grow in Summerhill. I've been looking at them, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Another sassafras. This is the one I was going to pollard because something happened. Maybe got too much nutrients. It won't stand up on its own.
Yeah.
I was gonna cut it, and one of my friends, Andy Morleen, said, "No, let it grow. It'll adapt." I'm like, okay. And I'm hoping in a few years it'll get strong enough to stand on its own. But it's growing pretty well now.
Yeah.
It grew about a foot or foot and a half this year, so that's the best growth that it's shown. But it's been really struggling
Right.
to stand up on its own. Ice and snow and rain knock it over all the time. And so I'm just filling this with native understory plants. I put a trumpet creeper. I love vines, so I put a trumpet creeper.
Well, I'm trying to get one to grow up an oak tree, and it's growing incredibly slowly over 5 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't produced any trumpets yet.
Yeah, I don't know anything about them. This is a black walnut that friends gave me.
Is that a good idea? People seem to say the black walnuts are bad for everything.
No, that's false.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're pretty much, it's hard to prove. They produce something in the roots,
Yeah.
but people have done studies and they're like, it's probably the shade. You know?
see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
All right.
If other plants, this is my philosophy, if other plants can't grow underneath it, that's their problem, that's not my problem. I want a black walnut. I love the bark. I love the scent.
Right.
And the idea here is with this rhododendron that came with the house, it's not a native rhododendron. It produces flowers. I want to create a tunnel with the sassafras and the tree. So this is going to go up and then over, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then here's a Kentucky coffee tree that hopefully will do the same thing. This is a really interesting tree. We just planted the tree committee, tree corps planted one in front of Town Hall. This is sourwood. Again, it's a southern species, but I've seen one in the Cape that is massive. It's not usually a big tree, but I've seen one that's incredible. Shiny leaves. You can eat them when they're young. Don't eat a lot. There's a little carcinogen in them. But you can eat a little bit when their leaves are brand new. They're not really harmful. And they turn a gorgeous red in the fall. And they flower in July and August. This is some remnants of the flowers. This one's been struggling. I moved it too much. But it's a late season flowering. It produces good honey. The bees love it. This is really a tree I highly recommend.
So have you been planting through right under in the shade of those trees as well?
Yeah, do you want to see?
Yeah.
Okay.
But watch out for your timing. I don't want.
All right, and then we'll finish that. There's more stuff. But I did because plants grow in the shade all the time.
Right.
And so this is a red bud that came in on its own. And I'm encouraging it now. Hopefully the deer won't get into it. This is a persimmon that someone gave me for Earth Day 5 years ago. It's surviving, doing really well. They're both small understory trees. This will grow taller.
Yeah.
And so I think they can live 3 feet apart. Back in the corner, that's a summer sweet or sweet pepper bush. They grow naturally along the Assabet.
Yes.
I have one out front.
Yeah, there's
that's
loads
flowering
of
right
them.
now. I put this one in because I like the bark when they get big and older. They have really strippy, barky, beautiful colored bark. So I put one here.
Oh, yes.
I have a one in front that I'll show you. I put one out front because I can't wait for this one. I might not live long enough to see the bark develop, so I put one out front to grow faster.
Well, I think there might be one on the dam pond. Along the Assabet there.
They're all
some
around.
really, really ancient ones. I think that's what they might be, but
they're all around the Assabet, along down here.
Yeah.
This is Maple Leaf Viburnum, right here.
Yes, I love this. This pops up in the woods all over the place.
That's right. And
yes.
when they turn color in the shade, they turn a purple lavender, a light purple lavender. When they turn color in the sun, it's not as beautiful. So I recommend planting them in the shade, actually. And it's almost died. It got stepped on. The bottom of the stem snapped, but it flowered this year. So it's recovered and it's doing okay. These are just natural beach sprouts. This is I want to say this is probably an American elm that would popped up in our garden. I dug it up and I put it here, and it's doing fine. That's oak leaf hydrangea that I got from the garden in the woods. Yes. It's doing great.
Yes.
Hazelnut, and then the red bud again. That I planted, and over here, if you don't mind going through this. This is the second row. My idea is to grow one row of trees below the wall, grow another row of trees above the wall, and then when the beach dies, we'll have a little picnic area that'll be forested, that'll be closed off on both sides. That's the goal.
Yeah.
This is a tree that not many people would plant. I've heard you're not supposed to plant it in Massachusetts. This is black locust.
Okay.
It smells so beautiful when it flowers. I don't know why it's on the banned list. I'm not a fan of that. It's very weedy. It's very, it spreads. But the flowers and the scent are gorgeous. The texture of the leaves I just love. They break up the monotony of the oak. There's another sourwood that I put in there. I'm going to move it in the fall. I don't like where I put it.
Seems as if you're quite happy to move things around when they're in the wrong place.
I probably move them too much.
So
but
you're getting away with that. So that's interesting.
I haven't... That sourwood over there has stalled in growth, and that's on me. I moved it too much. But I move them in the fall. I take as much of the root ball as I can. I water them. And I don't think I've lost one yet that I've moved. Okay. They stall. But they've not died.
Interesting.
So far. This is bottle brush buckeye, which can really become massive. But in this shade, and as the trees grow, it won't spread as much. And this is a special tree right here. This is the tree that Lee and Kate gave me at that event at the library. This is the hawthorn, or Washington hawthorn. This is the tree they gave me. I didn't know who they were. They gave me this tree, and Lee's is big. Mine is in the shade, so it's not, partial shade, so it's not growing as fast, but it's doing just fine. It's got the beautiful,
hawthorns are one of my favorite English trees, hawthorns.
Yeah. So this is a native hawthorn. Lee and Kate gave it to me when I first met them, and I'm thrilled it's doing fine. It's not big, but it's here. I don't know how many species we've talked about already, but
amazing.
There's a couple more. So I planted in the understory. Because the prior owner did what a lot of people would do. They want yard. So they tried to mow this.
Tried to make it a lawn or something.
They tried to make it a lawn, and it was just sedges and bare ground and moss.
I actually like sedges and moss, though.
I do too. I do too. But I want.
But this is a great deal more productive than trying to make it a lawn. That's for sure.
I want a forest, so I planted understory trees. So I've got trillium in here.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, they've died back.
Yeah.
I have oh shoot, forgetting some of their names. But anyways, I've planted understory. I've planted the native Pachysandra. I've let Virginia creeper go. I've got a lot of ferns. I've got the woods aster is doing fine back here. Virginia bluebells. mayapple is spreading like wildfire.
Oh, lovely.
You know.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm just and fern, and so I'm just want to regrow the understory.
It's fantastic, absolutely incredible.
You know, Christmas fern.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some trillium. Some are more southern, some are northern.
Yeah.
This is the Canada lily. It has survived my children and deer, and it sent up a new sprout this year. So I'm hoping next year we'll get like 10 flowers instead of 4. Ginger is doing fine here.
Oh yes, that's a native ginger. Mine's not native. That's very nice.
I've planted trout lily, which takes I think a long time to develop.
Yeah.
And they were getting too much direct sunlight.
Yeah.
So the trees will help shade this, so the understory plants will do better. Because these are spring ephemerals that I'm putting in mostly. I haven't done any late summer, not as many late summer understory herbaceous plants, except for out here. Gosh, what are these? Yeah, you know, bloodroot.
Oh, is it?
Bloodroot.
Okay.
Bloodroot is almost a weed. It's so successful in our yard. I can't believe it. I dig it up, I give it away, and it comes back all over the place. So I love it. It's one of my favorite plants.
What's that fern there?
It might be, I don't know. I've planted so much that I have to say I didn't map it and I didn't name it because I just wanted to. I just wanted to enjoy sometimes instead of just be a scientist all the time. Oh, this says marsh fern, but I'm not so sure. I've got ostrich fern and royal fern and sensitive fern, and I forget what that one is. But it's doing really well.
Unbelievable. So productive. What did you do with this path? How did you get the...
So I spent more time on this one than the other one. Yeah. This one I dug down, I put in broken bricks so it drains, and then I put down the wood, and then then I put in the, it's a stone dust they call it. It's almost like a clay to help give it structure and to help hold these pieces in place, and then I put them in place, and then I just filled with stone. And that's it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it came out. I made these with a chainsaw, which I don't recommend because I took cross sections of trees and cut them in half. And they're a little unstable. On the other side, they're just boards that I bought somewhere.
Okay.
They are a little unstable, but they've settled in pretty nicely now. A couple I've had to cement in or do a couple other things. And these are just tree cross sections that are like this big.
Oh, okay. So it should meet that.
They might be like this tall.
Okay.
They're buried pretty deeply. This might decay in 10 years and I might have to replace it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The water can pour in, they can decay, it's natural.
Yeah.
I like the look. This is another southern tree that's become popular up here for planting. Up north they call it white fringe tree. Down south the old name is Grancy graybeard. So it has really delicate flowers that like tendrils almost that hang down. It's a wonderful scent. It's really beautiful, one of my favorite. And it's a wonderful little shrub. It can have multiple stems. I cut one stem off because I wanted it more tree-like. I slightly regret that now. But the idea is
so some of them you let have multiple branches and be bush-like, some of them you might.
You know, like there's red twig dogwood in here that I planted that's multiple stemmed and is growing like wild.
Yeah.
I just cut them back. I'm going to cut them back some more. There's the summer sweet, the pepper bush.
Oh yes.
In flower. It's doing quite well. It's doing very well actually. And you can see where some of the bark. Here's the bark in here. That's the bark I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And there's a mountain pepper bush I've seen in Kentucky where it turns a royal dark red. Oh, it's so beautiful. And so this is lighter color, but it'll be strippier bark, and I want to see that. So that's why I put it here.
Fascinating. It's like it's your own aesthetic of a bark garden.
Yeah, I do. I love bark. That's how I learn trees. This is choke cherry.
Yeah.
So it only grows this tall. I moved it out from under the solar panels. It kept getting crushed every winter. So I moved it, and now it's resprouting. It's doing fine. Pepperbush, another serviceberry. Yeah, I'm afraid that the mockernut. Oh, it's surviving. This little mockernut is surviving really nicely. This is our rose and raspberry garden. And then there's a few other plants. Oh, so you can see now what the... I love
these things. They're not native, I don't think. Oh,
these are not
Aaron's
native.
Rod, but
These
I
are from
keep
Europe.
them too. Yeah.
They're beautiful. Insects like them, but the colors on the
Look at
umbrella
that.
magnolia are just, and it'll get darker.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful plant.
Very pretty.
This is the one where we're really pushing the range limit. This is Sweet Bay. It's a magnolia. Like, I first met it in South Georgia. That's how, but they sell it up here. It survives. This one's been struggling, but it's actually, I moved it once because it was getting crushed under the solar panels. But it actually looks really good this year.
Right.
It really suffers in the winter, but it's surviving. And I put it out front so it gets a lot of warmth. I put it in one of the warmer parts of the yard. This is a pawpaw, a third one, because I want to see this thing grow, and in the fall it's going to be so gorgeous. If it turns like that other one, this neon yellow green is amazing. I put a couple small apple trees that I'm going to cut back more. Those are wild senna. Those.
That's okay. Yes, I have seen that in the woods.
I can give you some if you want some. They are prolific.
Yeah.
It's native to like the Mid-Atlantic region, but I love the leaves.
Yeah.
They turn a beautiful yellow in the flower. They flower yellow color in the fall. They flowered in August, and the bees love them.
Yeah.
And they're really prolific. They grow this tall, and then they die back to the ground, and they come out late every year. And the only thing is they spread. Like there's a little one there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of babies over there. I've got to. That's the only downside to them. And then friends gave me this. This is a buckeye, yellow buckeye, but this is a Texas yellow buckeye, so it's a subspecies. It's a very small tree, won't grow. Oh, I didn't show you this either. This is wax myrtle, which grows naturally down south, and if you rub your hands and smell it, it's wonderful.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yes.
It doesn't smell New England-y at all.
No, it's southern.
Fantastic.
But I think you can use it in cooking, and Sweet Bay you can definitely use in cooking. So someday we'll do that. But this is yellow buckeye, which in the Smokies can get to be 3 to 5 feet diameter, can live 500 years. It's a really unusual southern species, but my friends found this Texas version that is a smaller, much smaller
it's not
tree.
going to be...
No. So I planted smaller trees so don't block the solar panels. I just got these hibiscus. That's a native hibiscus. I've never grown them. We just planted it. It's got a tropical flower. I like it. My wife likes it too. And I think this is one like the rhododendron and the red twig and the wax myrtle here. I cut them hard every year because they will really outgrow the house. Yeah. And I'll probably end up doing that with the hibiscus as well. I don't try to keep plants in check.
Right.
Try to put them in places where they can be. Yeah. But
you've got to have some light in your house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And this yard will eventually fill and become pathways. And this is just an apple tree that we put in, and it hasn't flowered yet, but I've got to cut it hard this year. It's really growing.
Right, that's another topic. Yep. It is unbelievable what you've created here.
Yeah, thanks. And then this is a pinkster. This one is actually starting to flower regularly, and you can get a very subtle rose scent. But in the woods, you can smell them 30 feet away when they're mature.
What is that again?
It's pinkster.
Oh.
It's a rhododendron azalea that's native to New England.
Yeah, it's going to be lovely.
I have 3 of them in the yard, I think. I've forgotten where the 3rd one is. But I moved this one because I put it somewhere and I'm like, it's not growing fast enough, it's not getting enough sun.
Yeah.
I want, the 3rd one's back there.
Yeah.
I want flowers.
Yeah.
And so I moved it where it would get more sun.
Yeah.
It's a deep I could put some in the back there and they would be okay. And I might end up moving one of them. I try not to move them too much, but I make mistakes and I'm learning from the plants, and I try to be really careful when I move. You know. So that's
unbelievable. I think it's extraordinary.
Yeah,
so tell me, have you got any time left?
Yeah.
Tell me. So how come you're interested in plants? Where is your beginning in this?
I haven't fully figured that out, but I think it's because when I was young, we grew up in the countryside, and there was no one my age to play with, so I would go wander.
Yeah.
It was an open sand and gravel field. My dad sold the gravel, but I would go into the woods. But then we had a cabin in the Adirondacks, and I think it's growing up in the woods. And I wasn't conscious of it until I was in junior college, and I took a class where they said humans are altering the earth, and that caught my attention. And I wanted to learn how to restore ecosystems. And then the first class after junior college, one of the first classes was dendrology, the study of trees. Don Leopold was the professor. He's very charismatic, great teacher, and I just fell in love with trees then. And then it's just evolved from that. So I think it was a very... David Foster Wallace had a commencement speech that he gave once called "This is Water." And it's about slowing down and observing life. Yeah. But he starts the anecdote, the story of 2 young fish were swimming up the lane one day, and they came into an older fish, and the older fish goes, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the older fish swam by, and the 2 young boys turned to each other and said, "What the hell's water?" And so the idea is we're living immersed in this system, and we're not even aware of what we're in. And I think that I grew up with trees, but I wasn't conscious of them until college. I knew that a few trees existed, blue spruce, sugar maple, pine. And then Don Leopold, and then classes, and then just immersing myself again in the forest must have done it. Going down south, I can't stress that enough, the diversity of the southern forest is really unbelievable, especially the Smokies in the southern United States, the deep south. I mean...
Well, I was reading yesterday that the diversity appears to increase as you approach the equator up to a certain point, and then it stops doing that.
Yes, that's exactly right. So if you look at a map of tree diversity, it's very high just south of here a little bit, in West Virginia, southern Pennsylvania, parts of New York State, and then it grows into the Cumberland Plateau, and then the Smokies is really and then Alabama. That's like the peak of tree diversity.
Yes.
And then it tapers a little bit down into Florida.
Interesting, very interesting.
But that's a temperate zone. But our temperate forest in the east is as diverse as any other, except for probably California is pretty diverse in the wetter areas. But Asia, East Asia is where that's where our forest comes from originally. You know, when the continents were together. All our trees are descendants of the Asia forest. So when I go to China and I walk through the forest, I can recognize the genera because they look exactly like ours.
More similar than South American plants, for example.
More similar. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. South America is different. I've been down there a little bit. And but so spending time in the southeast and then getting to spend time in Bhutan and in China and seeing those forests, very similar to ours. Ours are very similar to theirs. Actually, evolutionary, that's how it came. Just really emphasized it. And just learning about the bark and the leaf color. And this yard is definitely a recreation of my life in some ways. I'm realizing it now. I'm bringing the plants from the south that I love here. And it's to think about the future.
That's right.
Probably sugar maple will be better than we think, and yellow birch, but it's probable that the southern species will do better. It feels like the south today. It's 90 something.
There's a hummingbird behind you.
Oh. Yeah, so I let that. That's a non-native, I think.
No, it's native.
The flower?
Yeah, it's
Evening primrose?
evening primrose, surely. Well, I thought it was. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe, no, I don't know. I'm still learning my plants. But I like it, and it's doing fine.
Yeah.
There's some non-natives that I let go because I see the insects and birds like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So you
Yeah,
just,
exactly. Yeah.
you let it go.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Yeah.
sharing this.
Yeah.
I think people in Maynard might be quite interested.
Yeah, and you know, the goal, really, the downtown goal is to try to come up with a forest that won't die suddenly with extreme climatic events or disease.
Yeah.
So biodiversity is really important as a,
Yeah.
you know, you don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all that it is.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's the goal of the Maynard Tree Committee.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And it pushes
And that principle is going to apply to the other town lands around, not just downtown. Basically, the same principles you'd apply all over the place.
Yeah, the green spaces that I've been to and here in Maynard are wonderfully diverse.
Yeah.
School Woods has pockets of southern forest.
Yeah.
Summer Hill that we've talked about has northern and southern mixes in there, and we are in the middle of this ecotone, so we're okay.
Yeah.
It's the diseases that are the big
Diseases and invasives.
killing the beach.
Yeah.
It's
Are
killing
you
the
worried
ash.
about the invasives as well as the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to ignore it for a couple decades, but you can't anymore. The beach leaf disease is wildfire right now. It's spreading across the region so fast.
Right.
We don't even know what causes it.
Right.
We don't know how it moves.
Yeah.
All we were doing is watching the beech tree die.
It's tragic, isn't it?
It's pretty bad. It's like, 80 years ago or almost 100 years ago we had chestnut.
Yeah.
And then 30 or 40 years later we lost the elm, or started to lose the elm. And then we had hemlock and hemlock adelgid. And now we have beech, and now we have ash, and there's going to be something else. It's speeding up because of our economies sped up, and the mixing of culture, which is a really wonderful thing. But what comes with that are the insects. I think my garden, has the jumping worms. I've seen worms this year that I've never seen before. I don't know how they got here. Maybe they came in with some of the plants I bought. And that's how a lot of our diseases come.
Yeah.
They come in nursery stock and other things. So it's now playing out in our landscape.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we have to push the diversity, because hopefully not all these species will be susceptible.
Right.
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 There's only one other tulip poplar in the world, one other species. So maybe that one will be okay, though I've heard of a new disease on tulip. There aren't many hickories in the world. So maybe some of our species will survive.
Interesting. Okay.
That's how I think about it.
Yeah. That's a very interesting point.
Right. We lost the elm because there's elm and that disease.
European.
There. Chestnut. The same.
All right.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.